All right, so like picture this, right? You're walking downtown, sun's just beaming off that skyscraper, all that glass and steel, and you kind of have to tilt your head back like, whoa, how'd they even build that thing?
It's impressive.
Right, totally. And today's deep dive, it's all about the folks who make those glass giants possible. We're talking about plate glass installers.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I know what you're thinking. Might not sound like the most thrilling job, but stick with us. Thanks to this cool tool called RoleCatcher, which helps people, prep for all kinds of careers, we found out this trade is way more interesting than it gets credit for.
It really is. It's funny how we just kind of exist in these spaces, right?
Hmm.
Our homes, offices, even our cars, they all have tons of glass, but we rarely stop and think about the skilled hands behind those installations.
Right, and we're not just talking about your average window either. This is residential, commercial, industrial scale stuff. Heck, even those high-tech smart windows, the ones that, like, change with the light, that's plate glass installers.
Yeah, all these sustainable buildings everyone's talking about, those eco-friendly designs. That's them making it a reality.
Exactly. And the source we're diving into, it breaks down just how much goes into this work. It's not just, here's a pane of glass, stick it in that frame. We're talking physically demanding, often working way up high, handling these massive, heavy panels.
Oh, yeah, you got to have some serious strength for this job. And dexterity. You can't be clumsy up there.
Like a workout, but instead of biceps, you're building skyscrapers.
Exactly. And get this. Every single project, it has its own unique challenges. So you can't just be strong. You got to be a problem solver on the fly. The source, it actually talks about how often these installers have to troubleshoot in the moment, making sure those installations are absolutely flawless no matter what curveballs come their way.
Okay, that's impressive, but where does the artistry part come in? Because I feel like I've heard that about this. Is that in the source too?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The source, it talks about getting that flawless finish and aesthetic appeal. And that requires real craftsmanship. It's about making sure everything aligns perfectly, looks seamless, almost invisible. It's precision, a keen eye for detail.
So we're not just talking muscle, we're talking finesse too.
Yeah.
This is starting to sound less like construction, more like, I don't know, high-stakes class Jenga, with like a side of art school.
Right. It's pretty cool. And the career path itself, it's fascinating too. The source, it maps out what each stage looks like, from entry level all the way up to a senior installer.
Okay, so let's break that down. Someone just starting out, what are they in for?
Think of it kind of like an apprenticeship. You're assisting the more experienced installers, learning the ropes, getting comfortable with the tools, the materials. And the source, it really stresses how safety is, like the biggest thing from day one. You're dealing with heavy glass, you're often working at heights. There's no room for messing around.
Yeah, that makes sense. You'd want a good mentor before you're the one holding a giant pane of glass on, like, the 50th floor. So when you move up to a junior level, what changes then?
That's where you get more independence. You're handling more of the precise measurements yourself. You're troubleshooting those like smaller issues. It's that moment where you realize, hey, they trust me with this. That's got to feel good.
It's like leveling up in a video game, but with, real-world skills.
Exactly. And then you reach that senior level and things get really interesting.
Senior level.
Yeah,
Are we talking project management now, client calls, the whole 9 yards?
you got it. The source, it challenges this idea that trades can't lead to leadership roles. At that level, you could be overseeing a whole team, managing projects from start to finish, even working directly with clients.
Wow. And maybe starting your OWN glass insulation empire someday.
Hey, anything's possible, right?
Mm.
The source even mentions how some installers, they specialize, they get really niche with it, like stained glass or those energy efficient installations, tapping into those specific markets.
That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of keeping up with the times, you were saying before we started that you were checking out some of those roll catcher resources. Did you see how much technology plays into this work now?
Oh, absolutely.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah, it's not just hammers and nails anymore.
Right. CAD software, robotic equipment. It's like, how do they even de-know this stuff before computers?
It's wild, right? And it just shows how the trades are always evolving. This isn't your grandpa's construction site anymore.
Definitely not. And that constant learning, it's key, especially with those high-tech materials you mentioned, like the smart glass.
Mm.
Speaking of keeping up with the times, RoleCatcher itself is a great example of that. AI-powered resumes, interview prep, tailored for specific trades. It's wild how tech is changing even the job hunting process, wouldn't you say?
Oh, for sure. It's like you're learning new tech to land a job where you'll be using even more new tech.
Yeah.
Whole new world out there.
Instead of just, hammers and nails, you've got tablets with these CAD designs pulled up, and you've got robotic arms lifting those massive glass panels into place.
Seriously, it's like something out of a sci-fi movie.
Right. You're not just a construction worker anymore. You're practically a tech specialist at that point.
Exactly. And that's where that senior level experience really comes in. The source mentions how important it is for those lead installers to be comfortable with all this technology, because they're not just overseeing the installation anymore. They're often the ones operating the equipment, troubleshooting any glitches, making sure everything integrates perfectly.
But you're telling me these senior installers, they're not just reading blueprints anymore. They're basically, programming robots.
Pretty much. And it makes you think, like, how will these roles even continue to evolve as the tech gets even more advanced? What kind of new skills will plate glass installers need in the future?
Yeah, it's mind-blowing to think about. But you know what else struck me from the source? The emphasis on safety. I mean, with all this heavy machinery and working at those heights, there's zero room for error.
Oh, absolutely. You have to be so aware of your surroundings, constantly following those safety protocols to a T, because, one wrong move,
Yeah.
those could have some really serious consequences.
It takes a special kind of person, I think, to stay that calm, that focused under that kind of pressure.
Definitely. That ability to stay cool under pressure, to, think on your feet, solve problems as they come up. Those are skills that, honestly, they translate to so many other areas of life, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's like each project is different. Each installation has its own quirks. You're always adapting using your, ingenuity to figure out the best solution.
That's it. And let's not forget the satisfaction of creating something tangible. You're not just staring at a computer screen all day. You're building something with your own two hands. And seeing that finished product, those gleaming windows, transforming the entire skyline, there's a real sense of accomplishment there.
You've officially made me want to trade in my laptop for a hard hat and a squeegee, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But let's be real for a second. For someone listening who's, maybe never even picked up a power drill, this probably sounds pretty intimidating.
I get it. It can feel like a big leap, for sure. But the good news is, the source actually gives some great advice for anyone who might be interested in breaking into the field.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the secret sauce?
Networking. It's not just about what you know, it's who you know, right? The source specifically mentions things like joining industry associations, like the National Glass Association, attending those trade shows, maybe taking some workshops. It's all about making those connections and showing people you're serious about learning the ropes.
So don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Talk to people in the industry. Soak up all that knowledge.
Exactly. And then when it comes to actually landing the job, you've got to have a killer portfolio. The source emphasizes this, like how important it is to document your work, take high-quality photos, showcase your attention to detail. It's about telling your story through your craft.
So it's like you're building your own, glass and steel resume. But yeah, pictures speak louder than words, right?
100%. And speaking of pictures, I wanted to shift gears a bit and talk about the day-to-day reality of what it's actually like to be on those job sites,
So paint me a picture here. Day-to-day life as a plate glass installer.
Yeah.
What's it actually like?
Okay, so imagine this, right? You're downtown, could be a crisp fall morning, or maybe the sun's already beating down.
Okay, yeah.
And there's that, that energy, that buzz, a construction site in full swing.
Oh, yeah. I could practically hear the sounds just thinking about it.
Totally. So you're part of this team, everyone has their own specialty, and you're all working together to install these, massive glass panels that are going to completely transform this building.
Right.
It's definitely physically demanding, but it also takes this incredible precision, this focus. The source really highlights that balance between, the muscle and the meticulousness.
Yeah, you're not just, putting up drywall here. You're replacing these giant reflective puzzle pieces that have to fit just perfectly.
Exactly. And as you're guiding those panels into place, securing them with what feels like a million tiny screws and seals, you know that you're creating something that's going to be there for years to come, leaving your mark on the city,
It's funny, we always think about leaving a legacy in terms of, big shot CEOs or famous artists. But a plate glass installer is literally building a part of our world that people will see every single day.
I love that. It's so true. And speaking of leaving a mark, did you see that part in the source where they mentioned how some installers actually sign their work?
Wait, really?
Yeah, it's like this hidden signature etched into a corner of the glass.
No way.
And
That's awesome. It's like their own little stamp of craftsmanship. on something so much bigger than themselves.
Exactly. It's those kinds of details that make this whole trade so fascinating, you know?
For sure. It's funny, we started this deep dive thinking, okay, it's putting glass in frames, how complex could it be? But it is so much more than that.
Right.
It's the problem solving, the artistry, and like we were talking about, embracing all this new technology,
Yeah,
stuff we wouldn't have even thought about.
totally. And it's about having this real, tangible impact on the world around us. Those skyscrapers, those storefronts, even those energy-efficient buildings, it's all made possible by these skilled folks, the plate glass installers.
Absolutely. So, to everyone listening out there, next time you're walking by a glass building, maybe just take a second and appreciate the craftsmanship behind it. And hey, who knows? Maybe this deep dive sparks some inspiration for your own career path. As we learned today, there are some pretty incredible opportunities out there just waiting to be discovered.